So welcome everyone to this episode. Today is going to be an interesting one. It's a topic that I think most people are not thinking about every single day, but this is why we have these podcasts, to bring light things in your life that can really be impactful to you and share some insights from experts that are going to be able to help you become more aware of some of the things going on in your life financially, risks, opportunities, but really make sure that you have everything you want for yourself, your family, and your life. So today I have a special guest today, Hunter Brown from VanBridge. He's a VP of Product and Case Design, and he's a guy I go to and I ask around disability protection, right? It's not a topic that everyone loves to just chat about at dinner. Nobody wants to get disabled, but the reality, it happens, right? And we are often promoting the importance of protecting what we all believe is our number one asset, which is us, our ability to produce and create value for ourselves, our families, and our communities. So, Hunter, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity and really looking forward to it.
No, it's great. No, we've had some good conversations, and certainly even before we launched recording this. And so I'm really anxious for you to share, your expertise and wisdom around disability and insurance specifically. So before we get into some of the details of this, how did you get into this space anyway? What's the background?
Yeah, so I've been doing disability insurance for about 4 years now. And actually how I got started, I did an internship here at VanBridge, and so I actually started quoting a bunch of DI plans. We kind of had our team needed a DI case designer, and it was something I was definitely interested in. I kind of just gravitated toward immediately. But yeah, I started quoting plans for our company, and then after I graduated college, that kind of became my role here as case design, and also I help people apply for coverage and just kind of answer general sales questions. But yeah, I just immediately I started designing quotes for people for disability, and then I started doing a whole lot more education into it, just because I was seeing the products all the time, and really was trying to find out what the value is, because I was just running quotes, but I didn't understand it. And I actually found out I really do appreciate what DI insurance can do. But there's also, I'd say a lot of, confusion or not a lot of knowledge around DI coverage, and that was something I was definitely intrigued about, trying to, clarify some of that stuff up too. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. Been doing it the past 4 years now, and yeah, trying to continue, growing my DI business, and but just also, letting people know, it's a very important product to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. It's I think that especially on the insurance side, I think a lot of these things, whether it's life or I know you deal with long-term care too, that just can be misunderstood or underappreciated in the world of finance. And anyone who's listened to this podcast since we started it, it's really part of what I would call the foundation of your financial life, right? The protection of things, of assets, your income, your life, all those things. And everyone's just trying to do it on the cheap without really understanding what they're getting into. So this is why it's so cool to have folks like you to help share that. So really, we're looking forward to it. So, I mean, it maybe seems so simple. You probably do it because we deal with it all the time. Like, what is disability insurance to begin with? Well, I want you to kind of start with the basics.
Yeah. So disability insurance, we're really just going to try to honestly provide, about 60% of your income or somewhere in that range, so that if you become disabled, you can continue, kind of living your lifestyle. You don't have to change your lifestyle too much. But that's really kind of the main benefit of it is you're going to get that income replacement. You're going to be able to protect your income, and that being your most important asset you have. And so kind of how it's going to work, if you become disabled, there's a little bit of a waiting period in there, typically about 3 months, or it can be about 6 months before you'll receive DI benefits. But then once you go through that waiting period, you've been disabled for more than 3 to 6 months. It can be longer sometimes, but then you'll start receiving, a monthly benefit that can be anywhere. It's typically about 60%. Sometimes if you have multiple coverages, maybe if you got something from your employer as well as you maybe bought a personal plan, you might be in the range of 60 to 70% income replacement. So, but it's definitely something you want to consider covering. If you don't have anything at all, that your lifestyle is going to have to change significantly due to a disability. But if you can have that 60 to 70 income, percent income replacement, you can still kind of live out your lifestyle in the case of a disability. Really with a disability, you want to worry about recovering. You don't want all this financial hardship in a time where it's not so good. So that's why it's a big benefit to have something like this, and you want to buy up as much as you can of it. You don't want to just be buying a small little plan because you think that that'll cover. You want to buy as much as you can really because you don't want your lifestyle to have to change too much, or your family's lifestyle. So
Yeah, I would agree. And then and unfortunately, you hear it enough. And certainly, if I've come across it enough where, regardless of what income levels you have, like people sometimes spend up to it and they don't have a lot of margin for error, right? They're struggling enough to just save money, let alone having extra. So it's, and then if I have to experience a massive haircut, like 40%, it
hmm
could be a huge impact,
oh yeah.
right? For some people. So I certainly understand why that's important to have. And are there types of disability? You think about, because my expertise lies in life insurance world. Like, are there unique types of disability? I know there's short term, long term. Any others that you think the audience would benefit in learning about?
Typically, if you're buying an individual plan, you are just going to have short, long term. If you're just looking to cover yourself, it'll be just a shorter, long term personal plan. We absolutely have way more business strategies for business owners and cases that for businesses specifically. But if individually, if you're just looking to cover your income, yeah, you're just going to look at a long term, probably a long term DI plan. You want to consider a short term DI plan too if that's something you can afford. Usually, short-term DI plans are going to provide benefits, maybe for 6 months. Usually, your short-term plan is going to go up until your long-term plan. We're going to try to make the short-term plan, kind of butt up against the long-term plan, so that you're always going to receive a DI benefit. But yeah, I mean, personally, you're just going to buy, a short-term or long-term plan. There's some extra riders in there as well. That you can add to the plan that makes it more than just a disability policy, and we can talk about those later. That some of those features will make it just more than actual just DI benefits. There can be stuff that can help you with student loans or retirement. So, but if you're looking just kind of what's out there in the individual marketplace, yeah, you might want to just kind of consider a long-term personal DI plan. That's kind of that'll protect you for most things. And then we've got really cool business plans for business owners and then also groups of employees. If we got groups of 7 or more employees, we can do individual plans, and that's a really cool feature. But we'll talk about that in a second because yeah, those are kind of business plans that we can insure a lot of people, and we can give them a big discount on it too, which is neat. So.
Yeah, we'll definitely go into. I definitely want to cover it as it relates to a W-2 employee versus a
hmm
business owner. Game changes a little bit for sure, and that's why I think. So before we get into that, the one thing I always and I stress this with my conversations with friends, families, clients, anyone who will listen is the chances of you getting disabled are potentially much higher than you ever imagined,
hmm
right? And certainly before age 65, you have a higher chance of being disabled than dying, right?
hmm
So people think about life insurance in a whole host of ways, and we have enough topics and episodes dedicated to that. But like, I think you shared with me some of the stats, which I kind of even shook me a little bit. I was like,
hmm
the one was 12% of adult U.S. 12% of the adult U.S. population suffers a long-term disability.
Yep.
12%. I mean, that's, we think about, I always joke and sure to go to the extreme, like everyone thinks they can hit the lottery, right? The Powerball, it's like achievable, right? Even though it's like 1 in 1 billion or whatever the odds are, crazy. But here it's like a pretty significant number. And then one out of every 7 workers will suffer a 5 year or longer period of disability before age 65. One out of 7. That's
hmm
amazing. Um, Anything else that you've kind of come across that really that sort of strikes you as shares the sort of the reality of this, right?
Yeah.
Of having
Yeah.
disability.
One of the ones that I was looking at the other day is about 25% of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled before they retire. So like 1 in 4, you know. I thought that was a pretty striking fact, and especially when I think of, if I was a business owner, and I was looking at my employees, and I hear these facts, I'm thinking, man, someone one of my good employees could potentially become disabled, and it's very likely, these are the facts that we have. So that was one that kind of struck me. I was looking up some other ones, and it was saying, average DI claims can be at least 3 years. Usually they're typically at least 3 years. So, that would mean you're out of work for at least 3 years. I mean, are you going to be able to cover yourself for 3 years if you don't have any DI protection? So, and one other I was just going to throw out there. It was saying, only about 9% of these disabilities caused by accidents. 91% is caused by illness and sickness. So that's kind of another thing in there. It's to kind of it's kind of a self-realization that it's not an accident can be the cause of this, but it's really not likely. Actually, it's more so your actual health, that you're a sickness or illness that could take you out of work. That's 90% of the claims that we receive. It's not too many accident claims. So anyways, I thought those were just kind of interesting because, a lot of people only think they're going to be disabled from a potential accident, like, a car accident or something like that. But it's actually a lot higher that just your health can cause you to become disabled, throughout the course of your career. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. And even though we've advanced so much in the medical world today, but there's still a lot of things that we can't cure easily, and things that, just kind of left field, and they just sort of just treat it, and to your point, can be debilitating depending on the severity of it. So it's, you never hear it every day. It's just, sad in a lot of cases. And, I always kind of try to stress with people, like my wife is not a big fan of like surprises. Like she doesn't want like a surprise party, like for her birthday or something like that. Well, I don't want for myself or any of my clients to also have these surprises, right? That you could have prevented, because we don't know what will happen. And so, having these sort of protections in place allows you to deal with these surprises when they come, and still be able to kind of take care of your business and your family. So it's really important. And this is reality. I mean, it's weird, right, Hunter? Because I think everyone knows we're going to die, but it's not like I don't believe it's going to be tomorrow, right? But it could, right? Or disability happens to someone else. Well, it could be me. So it's a tough one to swallow sometimes.
It is, and it's one of the benefits that you're not going to really consider the value of it until something happens, or until you see you witness this that happens to someone else. But once you see what DI benefits can provide, in that case of something traumatic happening or something really bad happening, you'll see the value a lot more. But it's hard to see that value when you're not planning on becoming disabled. You want to work. You want to work into your 60s, 70s, and so,
Well, let's hope, right? And in my case, I'm like, let's work forever until we graduate from the earth, right? And do something of value, like you're doing in your world of helping protect people and get educated about it, like it's valuable to the community. So yeah. I still don't get the concept of retirement, but that's for another episode. We'll talk through that. But so, I come across people, especially who like you mentioned, having employer sponsored, like a group policy or something, right? At least a good start. It's better than nothing for sure. But most people haven't ever looked at it, right? Their policies, they know they have it. They feel they're covered, right? And you kind of put it in your junk drawer and kind of move on. But what are some things that people may not appreciate of what those group policies could actually protect or not protect against? Like any sort of ahas that you think people should be aware of?
Yeah. So group policies, I like, group DI is a great benefit your employer can give you. But it's really a good, just kind of base level of coverage. And that's really kind of what it is, just a base level. If you have nothing else, and if you couldn't afford anything else, it's a great benefit to have, at the very least. But there are certain things that, I would look into. And it's one thing I would definitely take to your advisor, let them look at your benefits, because a couple things on there that is typical of a group policy is a cap. We might cap the monthly benefit at $5K, $6K, it might be $7,500. Usually, in the case of maybe some executives or doctors, it might be higher than that at $10,000. But a lot of employers will just buy the lower cap, the 5 or 6K, and that's what the executives and the directors will have. People that are making over $100,000, and they're underinsured. With just the base level plan.
Mm.
So that's one I would just kind of look at immediately. Is look at the monthly benefit. If your monthly benefit's capped at $5,000 or $6,000, and you make over 100 grand a year, you're underinsured. That's not you're gonna max out on that group coverage, and you might only get 50% of your income replacement or 40%. Even though it says that 60% figure, I wouldn't get hung up on that because there's a cap. Look at the cap, and that's what you kind of need to evaluate. So, and another one I would say to look at is look at your elimination period and see what it is. Usually they're about 90 days or 180 days, 3 months or 6 months. And that's when, you're going to be disabled for 3 months or 6 months. And then the DI benefits will begin paying out. You kind of just want to make sure it's at one of those figures, 30 days, 60 days, a lower figure. You just want to make sure it's not like a year waiting period, 365 days. You don't want it to be that long because you're going to be providing, you're going to be funding your lifestyle for that entire year that you're disabled. So you really want your DI benefits to be rolling in about 3 to 6 months, unless you can cover yourself for a year, based, with your own savings. So that's another one. And then probably the last one you need to look at for your group coverage. So mental and nervous plans have mental and nervous limitations, especially group plans have mental and nervous limitations. And that means that if your claim were due to a mental or nervous situation, you are only going to get benefits for 2 years. So, and then you're done. So, and that's a really big thing. I don't think people think about mental health as being important with DI and coverage, but it very much so is, because a lot of group plans are only going to provide benefits for 2 years if your mental health were to be the reason for a DI claim. So that's one I think is very important. People need to look at their plan to see if their coverage lasts for the full benefit period for mental and nervous claims, or if it's limited to 2 years. And if it's limited to 2 years, I highly encourage you to buy a personal plan that covers you to retirement age for mental and nervous claims, because it's something you don't want to think about, but it happens. And if you only get coverage for 2 years on that, you may not be able to go back to work after 2 years.
Right.
And you're gonna have to figure out a new lifestyle after that, versus having a DI plan that covers you to retirement age for mental and nervous claims. So that's one I think people really need to look at. A lot of people don't realize that mental and nervous claims are limited to 2 years on their group coverage. That's a really big feature that I think group coverage is good coverage, but that's something about the group coverage that is very limited, and it's not necessarily that great. So.
Yeah, it's cliche, but sometimes the devil's in the details, right? Because how many people actually will look at their policies. They get their benefits from their employer and kind of say, "Look, first thing, let's start. What do I do with my 401k and all these other benefits?" It's can be daunting, and they may not provide enough support to show you the details of these things. So to your point, it's really good to get another set of eyeballs on it, just to make sure you know what you have, right? And you still might be comfortable with it if you want to take a risk, but at least you know what you have. So that's really key. What can I get your opinion? How about own occupation? So can you share what that is and kind of where you see that fits in?
Yeah, own occupation is a wonderful rider, and really what it's going to do is going to protect you for your specific roles and your duties that you're doing today in your job. So for me, I'll kind of just throw myself out there. I'm an internal wholesaler for insurance, and kind of what my day to day is honestly just sitting at a computer and talking on the phone. I might go out and visit clients, but those are my specific duties and roles of my job. So if I wanted ONOC rider, that's what it would protect me to do. So if I was unable to work on the phone, if I was unable to work on my computer, if I wasn't able to go out and visit clients, then I could go ahead and if I'm unable to do that, and I've been, my doctor has said that I have a disability, then I can receive DI benefits. And I actually can go out and do another job at that time. Even though I'm disabled from my current job, but maybe I'm still able to talk on the phone. Maybe that's the one thing I can still do. So I can go get a job, I don't know, working on the phone
Hmm.
somewhere and still earn an income from that new job, as well as receive full DI benefits because I had that ONOC rider and it specifically covered me for being my specific occupation of what I was doing today. And I was unable to do it. And so now I can, work another job and get a salary and DI benefits. Really the benefit of that is, you want to do the job, you're working it today. I mean, you don't want to have to go, in my situation that I just kind of described, I don't really want to have to go to a job where I'm going to work on the phone all the day. So that's one thing, to consider. That's why you would want to have an ONOC rider. You're going to want to go back to your job no matter what. But if you truly can't, that ONOC rider is going to protect you.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Versus if you don't have that, they're going to look at, are you capable of doing kind of any occupation? It is based off of prior education and training. So they're not going to be like, if you can't, if you're a nurse and you can't be a nurse, they're not going to say, oh, well, you can go be a telemarketer. It's not going to work like that, right? But they are going to say, is there anything in the healthcare industry that maybe due to prior training and education you can do? And they're going to try to get you to do that before they pay out DI benefits. So, that's why that ONOC rider really protects you for what you're doing today. It makes it specific for your occupation today. Not to harp on it too much, but sometimes it's not even super important to have that ONOC rider when it kind of depends on your occupation. When you're working from home, a lot of the time it's not necessarily the most important benefit because you might be able to still work from home even after a disability. So, but if you're going out and visiting clients, if you're on the phone, if you're working with people in person, absolutely, it's definitely an ONA. It's one of the riders you're going to want on your plan for sure.
Yeah. And certainly we don't have time to go through a lot of, that's why there's a lot in there. And this is why you have experts that help sort of weigh some of these options. Just like, I don't try to simplify these things, like, all the options you can get on a car, where there's a lot of different options with these policies too. Like, I think the one that we've talked about too in the past is partial disabilities, right? That can happen too. So there are, riders that could be added that would still, provide a disability sort of income, even if you're only partially disabled, which does happen often enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, I mean, they're going to want to go back to their job. So, even if they can work in a part-time role, that's what that residual or that partial, it kind of depends on what the language is called, but residual or partial, that's what that benefit covers is you're able to work in some capacity. You're not able to go back full-time, but you can go back part-time. And that way you can earn an income from working part-time, and you can also still get some DI benefits, So you're still you're getting money from both buckets, and but the benefit is you want to go back to your job. That's probably where you're making the most income is that specific occupation. So you're going to want to go back to it, and that residual or partial is going to allow you it's going to help you get back into that role working part-time, but it's also still going to give you some DI benefits. You're not just cut off from the DI benefits. It's still going to provide, some funds for, you might have a loss of income because you're working part-time. It's going to kind of cover that loss of income or just a portion of it, but it's still a great benefit to have. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So let me shift gears just a little bit. I know you alluded to a little bit with the business owners, and we all have some business owners as part of this audience. Like, anything unique that they really ought to consider maybe differently than someone who's maybe an employee?
Yes, absolutely. So we have great plans that help the business owner keep their business going in the case of disability, whether the business owner were to become disabled or whether one of their key employees becomes disabled, someone that makes a lot of revenue for the company. And we have a couple of different plans. I mean, we have one that is for the business owner. It can provide monthly expenses, or it covers monthly expenses. It doesn't cover the business owner's salary. It won't do that, but it'll cover the payroll. It'll cover other monthly fixed expenses that the business owner has, and that's called overhead protection. But yeah, it's just going to provide funding for monthly expenses, really to just kind of keep the business afloat. And that's really our goal, is to just provide the monthly, cover the monthly expenses. That way, the business does not have to change, or we don't have to start using the business money to cover those. We can use this DI plan because the business owner became disabled. So we're going to have those funds come in to cover monthly expenses. So that's one of them. That's one that the business owner definitely needs to consider for themselves. Go ahead and buy that benefit on yourselves, and you can do $20,000 of coverage, or 30. Sometimes you go up to 30,000 of monthly coverage to cover expenses. And then another one that the business owner is going to want to consider for their employees is key person coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And you sell key person life insurance, which it kind of works the same way. Where death were to occur, funds will come to the business. But in this case, if one of your key employees becomes disabled, let's just say we write this on our top salesman because they make maybe 50% of the revenue. It could be more. Sometimes it's more than that. If they become disabled, they're no longer able to work. So we want some funds to come into the business, because we're going to have to decide, if we're going to replace that employee. We're going to have to cover, costs for the time being too. So that's one that you want to consider writing on your definitely your high revenue earners for your company. That's not for DI insurance. It won't be your business owners that do key person. It'll be your salesmen or your key employees that you really need for the business to run. So that also might be, it could be a director, or it could be someone that's head of operations or someone like that too, that you really want to buy this benefit for, because they are vital to your company.
Yeah, and for a lot of folks who are starting off businesses and are getting in like that, the main guy or gal in there, they may be doing all of it, or sales and business development and managing everything. Certainly earlier on as people are growing businesses. So it's even in that case, it's like if that person gets disabled or passes away, like business could literally just shut down. Right, there's no one there to replace, so it's really key to think about that, especially and certainly as you're growing, right? As a business owner, who are your key people that would cause some serious damage to your business if they weren't around or couldn't work.
Yeah, the two I just mentioned, business overhead protection and key person, those are two I would say are very important for a small business owner. Because usually that business owner, especially in a small business, that business owner is vital to their organization. They need to be around. And sometimes I get the question of, my business can run without me, or they don't need me. They can run the business if I become disabled. And my rebuttal to that is, all right, well, why don't you take a month-long or 2-month-long vacation? Don't answer your phone, don't answer emails, don't help your company out. As the business owner, take a long vacation. And typically what they'll say is, oh, I can't do that. I can't leave for a month, or I can't leave for 2 months. My business needs me, and it's like, well, there you go right there. I mean, that's why, if you were become disabled, you're going to be out more than 2 months. You're going to be out, it could be out a long period of time. It could be 3 years, could be longer, that's kind of how I get past that hurdle of I don't need it is, well, try to take a vacation. See if you can step away for a couple months and not help the business out. And, but most of the time that business owner is very vital to the day-to-day operations, or, they at least need to be around. And, that's kind of, a realization that, you kind of have to have is, my business really does need me. I can't be out. And if I am out an extended period of time, I need some protection for my business so that I don't have to fire my employees. I don't have to close shop. There's a couple things that this will protect you. It'll basically, these two plans will protect you from having to go out of business due to a disability, So definitely good protection for small business owners. These are two products I would highly recommend they buy. And especially the key person, a small business, the key person for a salesman. A lot of small businesses, there are a couple salesmen that, bring in a majority of the revenue. And if they were to become disabled and not be able to work, that would significantly affect the business. So it's something they want to consider.
Yeah, and these are not the most, well, I guess depending on your perspective, to me, I look at, these sorts of conversations and kind of thinking of worst case scenarios and the impact it could have is, could be a little maybe depressing or difficult to think about, but what's the alternative, right?
Hmm.
Being caught with your pants down when these things happen and things turn out way worse. So it's these hard sort of realities of life. I think, I think hopefully for those listening empowers you that, there's something you can do about it, right? By getting the right people and advice and sort of putting some stuff in place so then you can actually focus on your business and get that moving in the way you want or your life. So really important stuff. So tremendous stuff here, Hunter. Like anything, any last words of wisdom you want to, share that you haven't shared already, like, about disability insurance that you want everyone to know? Anything, any last parting shots?
Absolutely, absolutely. I kind of had some notes here also about Social Security, and that's one I just wanted to say that if also if your DI plan, if you were to become disabled, if your plan is to use Social Security benefits, I'll just the Social Security benefits are predominantly low. They're typically not a high monthly benefit. That's really able for you to continue your lifestyle. So that's one. I would just can encourage you. If you Social Security benefits are good, and it's good you're going to receive that. But if that's all you have, I recommend looking into an individual DI plan or asking your employer if they have DI insurance. Just to cover yourself. I think another thing that you can do is if you can't afford the max plan, DI insurance does get a little bit expensive, especially if you can buy the max that you're eligible for. It can get expensive, but there are increased options we can put on the plan. So maybe just buy a little bit less for right now. While it's not your budget, just buy a little bit less, and we'll put some purchase options on there so that you can increase it on down the road once your income increases over time. And we've got really good plans that cover your income up to $1.5 million. So you can be protected up to that figure. So that's something I would say you just want to consider because buy a DI plan. Maybe start off a little bit cheaper, and then increase it over time as it becomes affordable to you and your family. Just because you want to get something in force, even if it's just a little bit, you still want to get it in force, and then then you can increase it over time.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree with you, and I think that's a smart play, and you grow into it, and certainly when your health is better too, right? Because you don't have you can get denied disability insurance, right?
yeah,
If
exactly.
your health is not good. And on a separate note, also supportive of all this, I'm a big believer in disability and protection of, as you mentioned, Hunter, our number one asset. So I'll always have it. And this is where also we always stress in this podcast is to also consider other streams of income too, right? This is kind of in some sense, it's like a passive way to sort of supplement your income. It doesn't replace disability in any stretch, but having other sources can help sort of allow you to survive if you do have a disability, have a cut in your income, right? Having that, so it's just all part of the big puzzle, right? We're trying to manage here with our finances. So, listen, Hunter, appreciate your time, your expertise. This was hopefully I found this was a lot of fun, and I think people get tons of value. How, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, where we're best to connect?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I work for Bambridge in the Nashville office, so I'm if you guys want to contact me, that's totally fine. I'm more than happy to kind of jump on a call and answer sales questions, or if you're just really curious about DI products, or if you want to evaluate kind of your DI situation. We're happy to look at the benefits that you have maybe in force with your employer, and just be real honest and let you know if that's enough coverage or not. So, yeah, but I'm here in the Bambridge office in Nashville. So, my email is my first initial last name at vambridge.com. So hbrown@vambridge.com. That's probably the best way to reach me. But
Wonderful.
yeah, I'm more than happy, looking at plans and trying to help people just kind of understand their DI, situation, and if they need more coverage or, if they're fully covered. So.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Hunter, and appreciate it. And we'll see you on in a future discussion. All
Thank you
right. Take
guys.
care. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.